Good evening and welcome to True Dogman Encounters. I'm your host, Marvin Allen. If you or anyone you know have had exciting and you would like for me to tell it on my channel, then contact me at Marvin Allen True Encounters. I would really love to hear from you. Just to give y'all a few updates, I'm still working on my computer trying to, get it so I can upload all my videos on there just so I can make better videos for y'all. But until then, I'm going to keep giving it to y'all like this, like I've been doing it, because I love sharing these encounters with y'all. I love y'all and I miss y'all so much. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, please go and click the button down below. Our goal is to reach 1,000. We at 800 and something subscribers now. So again, if you haven't subscribed, please go and click the button below. Another few things. I'm getting ready to start up another channel, or I might just do it on this channel right here, because what this going to be about, it's going to be about all cryptids. Not just Dogman, but Dogman, Bigfoot, the Rake, the Lizard Man, Jersey Devil, the Goat Man. We're going to do them on all cryptids. Because right now, I have encounters on Goat Man, the Rake. I got a lot on Bigfoot. I just never uploaded any of them. So just let me know what y'all think about this channel. Would y'all like it if I was to make the channel and just talk about all cryptids? But remember, our main subject is Dogman. But I want to give y'all, just a different variety and talk about other cryptids, not just Dogman, because it's other cryptids out there. So if anyone out there had a sighting, not just Dogman, but Bigfoot, Goat Man, Rake, Lizard Man, Jersey Devil, furries, we're gonna hit the whole market. We're gonna do it on everything. It's not just me. Y'all are doing it with me. So the journey I go on, y'all going on the same journey. I'm taking y'all with me. But I want y'all to tell me what y'all think about a channel with all cryptids. So like I said, if you had a sighting on any of these cryptids and you would like for me to tell it, please contact me at True Encounters. That's Marvin Allen, True Encounters. I would really love to hear from you. Now, this encounter right here, just to give y'all a little background first before I tell y'all the encounter. This encounter right here I had for a minute. And, I was going through the ones that I didn't do. And, I was reading over. And I decided to tell this one. Now, this encounter right here, just to give you a little bit background, is it comes from a guy who really didn't believe that these things actually existed. So what he did is he went on a little venture. He went out to go look for these Dogmen. Well, that's all I'm going to give y'all. So we're going to just jump right into this encounter. Now, this encounter, it happened in 2003. He didn't give me the location, so I didn't bother, to press the issue. But it happened in 2003. This guy said that him and his friend was sitting in the house one day and they was talking. And he said he don't know what made this subject come up, but it did. And his friend said, if I tell you something, would you think I'm crazy? And he was like, depend on what it is. So he said, never mind. So he said, no, go ahead and tell me. He said, what if I told you that I saw a werewolf before? And he said, yeah, you crazy. He said, see, that's just why I didn't want to tell you. So he said, I mean, if you say you saw it, then you saw it. He said, but I would have to see it myself to believe in it, because I don't believe in nothing like this. So they finished talking for a few, got up and he left. He said after about 5 months, he decided to go and look for this so-called creature that his friend told him that he saw. He said, so he did this every day, just about every day for a year and a half. He said he would do the same routine. He would get up, he would go in the woods, he would look, he would tree knock, he would do all type of stuff. He said, but he never saw nothing. He never saw nothing. And he went looking for this creature every day. He said, so this one particular day when he was out, said he had to go to the bathroom real bad. So he went by this, this big tree. Went over there and he urinated. He peed. So he stayed out for about another hour before it got dark, just to keep looking around, to see if he see anything. So he left. He gave up the search. So to him, he was saying in his mind that this thing that his friend said he saw didn't exist. So he brushed it off. So he said he was in the house one night. He was laying down. And he said when he was laying down, he heard this loud thump noise. Boom! On his roof. So he said to himself, what the? So he sitting there up in bed and he looks up at the ceiling. He said when he looked up at the ceiling, he said he heard these heavy thump sound. Boom, boom. Like it was something actually walking on his roof. He said, so he got up, he grabbed his gun and he went outside and he looked up on his roof. He said, but when he looked up on his roof, he didn't see anything. So he went back in the house, he laid down and he went to bed. He said the next day he got up, he ate breakfast, and then he got the trash together and he went on to take it outside. He said he took it out the back door to put it in the trash can. He said, but when he went through that door, he said he got this awful, strong smell of urine. He said he never smelled nothing like this before. And he smelt it with a combination of wet dug. He didn't know where it was coming from. He said because he had seen dugs in the area, he said, but he never smelt none as this strong before in his life. So he looking around, he don't see anything. So he goes back in the house. Now, mind you, he said in his front yard, he has this big tree that sit about 15 feet from his door in his yard. So he in the house that day, nighttime come, he lays down, he hear that same sound again, that thump, boom, boom, boom. Then something start walking on the roof. And he noticed it's walking bipedal, because it's walking in moderation. It's taking these strides like boom, then another step, boom. So he say, what the hell? He said again. Gets up, grab his gun, he goes outside and he looks up on his roof. He said this time when he looks up on the roof, he scans to the left, then he looks to the right. He said he sees something huge and black. Jumps down off the roof from the corner and it just run. He said it ran. He said he can hear the steps as it hit the ground. Boom, 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 boom. And it ran in the back up in the tree line. He ran to the corner of his house and he looked, but he don't see nothing. But he can hear this thing. I'm talking about yards away, the sound of footprints, steps hitting the ground. Boom, boom. Leaves crunching, limbs breaking. He said whatever it was, it just ran straight through the woods like it was just an open space, like nothing was there. And it knocked down everything in its way. So he goes back in the house. He's sitting down. He contemplating now about calling his friend. But he don't. He said he stayed up all night. The next day, he goes for a walk in those same woods that he took before when he went looking for this so-called creature. So he gets to these woods and he takes this particular path. So he walking down this path. But he said when he noticed when he walked in these woods this time, dead silence. The ambient noise just dropped. He said you couldn't hear nothing. He said you couldn't even hear a pin drop. So he stopped. And he scans the wood area. He looking around. Because he don't know why he don't hear no animals. He just thought that it was odd that you didn't hear no kind of animals. Not a deer, raccoon, a squirrel, a bird, a cricket, nothing. You heard nothing. So he looking around, he's scanning the woods. Because he want to know why is it so quiet. So he's staying there and he looks. He said he looks about 75 yards and he see this dark figure standing beside this tree. But he don't know what it is. Because he say the figure that he see, it's like it stooped down. But he noticed that this figure had the head of a canine. He could see the ears sticking straight up on it. And he said the head on this creature was massive. He said the head on this creature was massive. So he just stood there watching this creature or whatever it was he thought it was. But he stood there watching it. And he's looking at this thing. Now he's confused because he don't know if what his friend told him was the truth or was it a lie. So after watching this creature for a few seconds, he turns and he leaves. He go back home. He's sitting in the house. And he said to himself, what the hell did I just see? He don't know. So he didn't want to jump to no confusions. So he said later that night, about 12 o'clock, he hears something on his roof again. The same thump sound. Boom. Doom, 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 doom. He said this thing was just walking back and forth or whatever it was on his roof. It would go to one end, then walk to the other end. Go to one end, walk to the other end. And then it would stop. So he said he sat up in the bed and he listened. He said the next sound he heard was a thump. Boom. And he said it sounded like it landed in the front of his yard. So he grabs his gun. He gets up and he tiptoes to the front room. Now his curtains is closed, so he don't want to look out there. So he goes to the peephole on his front door. And he said when he looked out this peephole, he see this large, huge, black figure standing over by this big tree that he had in his yard. Now, mind you, these is his words. He said he see this large, huge figure standing over by this big tree that he had in his front yard. He said, and when he looked at this thing, it looked like a giant wolf standing up on his back hind legs. He said he could see those glowing yellow eyes, the pointed ears. He said this thing had some massive shoulders. He said in the body on it, it would put any bodybuilder to shame. He said this thing was huge. He said, but as his body went down, it tapered off. Basically what he was saying is, it fitted its body. Said this thing had some long arms. He said they looked too long for his body. He said, but really what shocked him and scared him the most, at this thing had huge hands. He said this thing had hands, not paws. He said this thing had hands. So now he thinking what his friend said about seeing this wolf before. So now he know what he talking about. Now he know what his friend saw, and he knew he was telling the truth now. He said, so he watching this thing, whatever you want to call it, because he don't know what it is. He watching it. He said, then this thing started to walk towards his house. He said, so while he watching this creature walk towards his house, he got a few feet for where you can walk that would turn on his motion sensor lights. And they came on, and that creature stopped. Now, how it stopped before it fully came into the light is your guess. Because he said this creature stopped and it stepped backwards just out the range of these bright lights. He said then he could hear this thing growl. He said the growl was so powerful that he felt it through the door. He said that's how loud and powerful that this growl was. He said, so while he watching this creature, he said this creature tilted his nose in the air and it started to sniff. Now what it was sniffing for, he said he didn't know. He said, but this thing started to sniff. He said, then it turns to its left quick. And it looks over to the other side of his house, to the end. That would lead into that side part of the tree line, into the woods. So it turns in that direction and it looks. He said, then this creature dropped to all fours and it just took off. It bolted. He said he never saw nothing move so fast in his life. So he goes back in his room. And he said to himself, I need to call him and apologize because I didn't believe him. He said, but now I know he saw what he saw. He said, so that next day, he called his friend. And he said he apologized to him wholeheartedly, sincere. And he said he meant it. He said, I saw what you saw. He said, I told you that those things are out there. I wouldn't lie to you about nothing like that. So they talked for a while, and then he hung up the phone. So now he contemplating on what to do about this creature. He said because he went looking for what his friend said that he saw for about a year and a half with no results, without seeing nothing, without seeing a footprint, hair, nothing. He said, but this creature found him, and it came to him. He's saying in his mind, how did this thing know where I live? Because he's shook now. He know he live out in the boondocks. His house is the only one that sit there. But he's saying, how did this thing find him? How did this creature know that this was his house? Why not go further and find somebody else's house? Why did this particular creature come to his house? Was it his scent? Was it the smell of his urine? Did he follow him one day when going back home? This is everything that he's thinking about because he don't really know. He don't know how this creature found him. He said because he looked for this creature all this time and never saw it. It took this creature to come to where he reside before he would believe what his friend had told him. So he said about 2 weeks had passed. Not real heavy activity, the walking on the roof. He would smell the smell of urine, wet dog, sometime rotted meat. He said, but after about 2 weeks had passed, he said he went outside one afternoon, right at dusk when it was really getting ready to get dark, but it wasn't dark yet. Went outside to smoke a cigarette. So he said he's standing out front, smoking a cigarette. And he just gazed over across the road into the tree line. He said, and when he looks over in the tree line, he says he sees not one, not two, but 3 sets of yellow eyes. He said, now while he watching these eyes, he noticed that they was high off the ground. They wasn't low, so he knew it wasn't no small animal. He said these sets of eyes was high off the ground. So he watching them. He said in these 1 sets of yellow eyes, he watched it. He could see it as these eyes will go higher, higher up. This thing was climbing up in a tree. He said it had to be about 25 or 30 feet up in the tree when the eyes just stopped and it just stared over in his direction. Then you got one set of eyes in the tree. Then you got a set to the left. And then you got a set to the right. So he watching them. Still smoking his cigarette. He in shock. He said then he noticed the set of yellow eyes that was to the right. It just ran. It just ran. He said it ran so fast and then it stopped. He said it looked like it ran about 80, 90 feet before it stopped on a dime. And then it gazed back over at him. He said at this time, he really got scared. He said at this time, he was really scared. Because mind you, usually take his gun out with him. But this time, he only went out just to smoke a cigarette and then go back in the house. So he noticed that he ain't got his gun on him. So he goes back in the house. He cracks the curtain and looks out. He noticed that that creature that was standing on the left, that didn't move, started to walk across the road. He said when he seen this creature walk across the road, it came down into his yard. And it stood about 15 feet from the huge tree that he had sitting there. And it stopped. And when he looked at this creature, he said this creature was dark in color. He said, but it looked like it had gray or silver in it. So he said it looked like it had two colors to it. He said it looked the same exact way as the first creature he had saw. The huge head, the pointy ears, massive shoulders, long arms, the bent back legs. He said then this thing was just breathing real heavy. He said he don't know why it was breathing heavy because it didn't run. It just walked over into his front yard. He said then he watched this creature. Said this creature it's like he pulled his top lip up or back or something, he said. He said because he could see those huge teeth that he had in his mouth. He said he could see them. He said that when he showed him his teeth, it was like a sign of aggression, he said. Like he was saying, this creature was saying, oh, I can get you. I don't need them, but I can get you if I want you. He said, so we still watching these creatures. He said, so after about a minute or two, after watching them, which seemed so long, he said he could see headlights coming from way down the road, coming from the north, going to the south. He see some headlights come up. He said then this creature kindly walked to where the road start. He said then this thing leaped. He said this thing leaped is so high in the air. He said it looked like this thing leaped about 40 feet in the air and landed over in the tree line on the other side. And the car just rolled past. Must have didn't see nothing. But he was saying to himself, how the hell you didn't see that thing jump? So he's still watching these creatures. He said he stayed right there watching them creatures after that car pulled off. He said it would seem like a long time after the first few minutes that he said he seen them. He said after a while, it's like they got bored or something. He said, and these creatures left. They just went back up in the tree line. It's like they vanished. Like they just disappeared. He said, so he said he sat up all that night. He didn't go back to sleep. He said, because he contemplating now about what these creatures want. Is they trying to hurt me now? Because it's not just one. He done saw 3 of these things. He done saw 3 of them. So he don't know if these things trying to hurt him now. He said, is it because I went looking for them? Or is it when I was peeing in the woods that I pee on their territory? These are the things he said was going through his mind. Because he didn't really know. He said, so the next day, he gets up and calls his friend. His friend comes over. And his friend told him the story of when he saw what he said was a werewolf. He said he was out riding one night. He said, and when he was out riding one night, he was riding down this dark back road. And he said when he was going down this road, he was coming around this bend. And he said when he came around this bend, he said the lights hit something standing in the middle of the street. He said this thing was standing straight up, bipedal on his back legs. He said, so he pulled on the brakes. He said, and when them lights hit that thing, he said that thing looked like a werewolf. He said, but then this thing took what he said was an arm and a hand and put it up towards his face. Like it was blocking the light. He said like he didn't want me to see it. But how can I not see it when something this big is standing in the middle of the road? He said, and after he did that, it just bolted into the tree line, through the woods. He said he sat there for a few minutes just to make sure this thing didn't come back. And he just drove off. And he said, you are the first person that I ever told what I saw that night on that dark back road. And he said, and that's the only time I saw it. And I never want to see it again. He said, I didn't go looking for this thing. He said, I didn't want to see nothing like this. He said, this thing just was there. Like it wanted me to see it. So he said, I never want to see another one as long as I live. He said, you know what? You probably right. He said, I went looking. He said, I went looking for this creature. He said, I went looking for this creature all that time, and I never saw it. He said, so maybe if you go looking for something, you're not going to find it. He said, but this thing found me, and now I'm scared. I don't know what to do. He said, the only thing I can tell you is give that thing its space. If you don't bother it, it will surely not bother you. Now, that was his encounter. I liked that encounter so much because he said he went looking for these creatures and never found them. He said it's like this creature found him. And it's just amazing, man. Because I love each and every person that share an encounter with me. And it give me a chance to share it with y'all. And I love helping people when it come to these cryptids. So again, if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please go and click the button below. If anyone you know have had a sighting and would like for me to tell it on my channel, please contact me at True Encounters. That's Marvin Allen, True Encounters. So with that, I want to say good night, and I'll see you on the next episode of True Encounters.